Thank you all of you for joining here today for this unique half-hour presentation. So it's going to be a short use of your time, but in a very effective and kind of worthwhile opportunity. So I want to thank you all for joining. I'm just going to provide a brief welcome of the organizations, the people involved here today. I'm going to provide a brief background kind of on the college career pathway endorsement process, which is centered to this initiative and unique partnership, and kind of the Illinois State Board of Education authorization process for that college career pathway endorsement. Then I'm going to turn it over kind of for the majority of the meeting time to the Golden Apple Scholars Program and the Golden Apple Scholars Foundation to really kind of explain the unique opportunity and the unique partnership that we have. For those who don't know, my name is Juan Jose Gonzalez. I am the Pathways Director of Education System Center. I want to give an opportunity, Ziggy, before I kick it over to you, maybe if you can introduce yourself, name and title at Golden Apple, and then I'll get us started from there.
Sure. Ziggy Blackwell, Director of Recruitment with Golden Apple Scholars. I do see a lot of familiar names on the video, so thanks for having me.
So one of the things I wanted to start all of you with first is because of an understanding of the college career pathway endorsement and the ISB authorization process. So as many of you may know already, but some of you may be joining us who are not familiar with the college career pathways. The state has kind of developed a tentative kind of framework for understanding what a good and proper college career pathway is, right? Those pathways have as a high level of kind of individual student planning, career focused instruction, meaning courses in CTE and or other aspects of that as well. A high access and kind of robust work-based learning, whether that's integrated into coursework or kind of off-site, off-campus participation in real workplace experiences. And the pathway also has a high attention to core academic subject areas, English and math, but also science and social science, and how those core academic subjects complement the career-focused instruction. When someone creates a pathway, it should be a secondary to and through post-secondary pathway. That means students should be able to continue in earning degrees and credentials, getting more skills, and being able to access higher earning opportunities as well as a result of participating in the pathway. They shouldn't be tracked or limited in their options. They should be building upon each other. In 2016, there was a law signed called the Post-Secondary Workforce and Readiness Act, which created this college and career pathway endorsement. A college and career pathway endorsement is something that a student earns and is marked on their high school diploma, indicating their expertise in a pathway in an industry sector and showing that they've kind of completed multiple years of coursework and experiences in that industry sector, and almost showing a level of expertise comparable to like a college major or minor, or maybe even like an IB diploma or something of that nature, right? So the college career pathway endorsement has become implemented in the state as the first school districts to implement the pathway endorsement was in 2019. In 2020, that number has started to grow as well. And let me give you a sense of kind of what are the requirements of the pathway endorsement and kind of the scale of it shortly. So for those of you who may be new, if a school district is implementing a college career pathway endorsement, these are the requirements that students must complete in order to access the completion process of that endorsement. There's going to be requirements around career-focused instructional courses and sequences. There's going to be requirements around work-based learning and opportunities. And there's going to be requirements about academic readiness, meaning for those of you who have been partners in our pathway endorsement process, students must now be kind of placing into college level English and math. So if you haven't rolled out transitional English or transitional math yet, and we're seeking to implement the endorsement, we're hearing from the State Board of Education that they're going to be looking for both transitional math and English, as well as kind of the career focus and work-based learning specifications. For those interested in looking at this slide in more detail before I move on, I have linked the slide deck in the chat once again for all, and this should be available all of you to own and download as well. You know, one of the things that I'd like to tell folks about kind of the college career pathway endorsement is that it really makes a unique student relative to the average high school student. Because of the requirements of the pathway endorsement and the definitional aspects included in it, a student graduating high school with the pathway endorsement has a set of foundational skills for all careers, right? They've had real world workplace experiences, on the job experiences, project-based learning, and team-based teamwork in their kind of workplace setting. So therefore, they have a certain baseline foundational professionalism, employability skills, or soft skills, which make them highly valuable in the workplace. Obviously, a student with the pathway endorsement because they focus their pathway in a certain industry sector, is now very accelerated towards that industry and towards that career. They've had multiple years of coursework, some of that coursework for early college credit. So they've even gotten a flavor for college level kind of majors and programs, and are potentially much more committed to that study of that major and that program when they enter the post-secondary level. And last but not least, by definition, a student who graduates with a pathway endorsement is academically ready for college. They are placing into college level math and English courses, have passed career-focused college courses while in high school, and are actually have a good sense of what is coming for them at the post-secondary level. For those districts that have not done so, or who may be new to the college and career pathway endorsement process, for those of you, we want you to access the Golden Apple Scholars Foundation and that unique opportunity. You must be in your district offering and implementing the college and career pathway endorsement, right? So there's a process for new districts to get on board with that, right? And I'm going to share a website on that shortly, but essentially the process is, as a school district, your school district will reach out to the State Board of Education, indicating your interest to offer the pathway endorsement. Your district would then receive access to an online platform where you can upload all the curricular, work-based learning, and academic components of your pathway. And SB will then review that to see if you're in compliance with the pathway endorsement requirements, or if you're not, offer you feedback or suggestions on how you could get your pathway fully completed and operational. Once you've kind of been authorized by ISB in your online platform and with the plan approved, you submit to ISB just an understanding of like, hey, we are going to be having X many students this year graduate with the endorsement. This is what we predict. And then these are the subject areas they're going to be earning their pathway. ISB will then kind of give you the required stickers and the items to be placed on the student's transcript and or diploma upon graduation. This is the Illinois State Board of Education website for college and career pathway endorsements. You see it here at the bottom of your screen. For those of you accessing the slide deck, you can kind of hyperlink to it from it as well. One of the things that I wanted to highlight on the webpage is kind of the resources tab, where ISB, before you even start playing around with their online platform, they've created a kind of an instruction manual and even a like Excel spreadsheet where you can start to preload information about your pathway endorsement to make sure you're lining up and you have a sense of the information that's going to be asked and required of you. You should always kind of think about, feel comfortable to reaching out to myself to kind of get system with the pathway endorsement process and application process. But the website does list one primary point of contact for ISB, which is Heather Taylor, and her information and kind of email addresses on the screen as well. We encourage you to kind of take the plunge. The application process is now live and it can be done as early as September. So the sooner you get your pathway endorsement authorized in your district, the sooner you can then start to align your students to the Golden Apple Scholars Foundation. And there are kind of multiple timelines for a student application to the Golden Apple program. If there's any questions in the chat around the pathway endorsement and that process, please let me know. But without further ado, I kick it over to Ziggy and kind of the Golden Apple organization.
Right, thank you, Juan Jose. Also, thank you, Sarah Clark. I'm really looking forward to this year. We created a partnership with SEPI sort of in the spring of last year. So this will be the first full calendar year that we could really build some momentum. We have similar goals as SEPI and the pathways. Our goal is to induct more scholars who are interested in teaching because of the teacher shortage. And so as you're preparing and developing interests among students in your building who have aspirations for teaching to respond to the teacher shortage, that's our exact mission as well. What I'm going to talk to you a little bit about is the benefits of the Golden Apple Scholars Program. So why should a student, an aspiring teacher, consider these Golden Apple Scholars Program? And then I'll finish up with talking a little bit about our partnership and how your students will receive priority consideration in our selection process. Here we have a view of the entire scholars recruitment team. All of your communication will likely start with me, so I do have my email address here. But also on the team is Norma De La Rosa. Norma De La Rosa is able to assist with presentations, virtual or in person. Also want to mention that Norma is fluent in Spanish, so if you would like to host an info session and would like that to be administered in Spanish, or if you need an interpreter, possibly working with parents, Norma can assist those requests. And then Rocio Manriquez is more on our selection and administrator side. I would say most of your communication will be with me, and as regarding any type of presentations, that could be administered between myself and Norma. So here are the benefits of the Golden Apple Scholars Program. Now, many students, and if you have worked with us in the past, you may have heard about us because of our tuition assistance benefits, our financial aid scholarship opportunities, and we'll get to that in a moment. But I want to let you know, and I always want to remind prospective students, that at the core, we are a teacher preparation program. That's our main goal. All of our supports come back to teacher preparation, sort of a underlying foundation of what a student is getting at the undergraduate level. So these are a tiered bullet points of benefits. We provide extensive classroom teaching experience, academic and social emotional support, job placement assistance, and then we also assign all of our scholars a mentor once they are a licensed teacher in their first 3 years of teaching. We'll unpack this a little bit later, but these are the key areas of supports that we provide a student. But here is what I want to lead with, because this is maybe the most important, interesting aspect about the program, why students often decide to apply and get involved with Golden Apple Scholars, our financial assistance. A scholar can earn up to $23,000 in financial assistance through their time in the program. And it's distributed in different areas. As you can see, $23,000 in total tuition assistance and also stipends. Towards the bottom, you will see that there are amounts in these red rectangles. A student who is a freshman standing college student or a sophomore standing college student can earn up to $2,500 per year in the program. Okay. Once a student is junior standing or senior standing, the amount goes up to $5,000 per year. When you add that amount together, $2,500 freshman year, $2,500 sophomore year, $5,000 junior year, $5,000 senior year, that amounts to $15,000 that we allocate directly towards tuition assistance. We partner with 48 universities in the state of Illinois, 48 four-year institutions in the state of Illinois. And that $15,000 is sent directly to those institutions and applied to that student's billing account. We work directly with the financial aid office to make sure that that amount is distributed every single term semester. And then to the right, you see that there is a stipend a scholar can earn through our Scholar Institutes. This gets to one of the first bullet points I had on the previous slide, that we provide classroom teaching experience. Every summer, all of our scholars come together and they participate in a program called Scholar Institute, which is a 3 to 4 week classroom prep camp in a sense. What they're doing is they're receiving direct and indirect teaching experience from award-winning teachers. Direct experience comes in the form of we are sending our scholars into buildings and allowing them to co-teach summer school. So you might have, some of you may experience this where you need summer school, but maybe you are unable to provide enough teachers to have all the courses you need. Or your teachers might need some assistance. And so what our scholars are doing is they're traveling over the state and they're assisting licensed teachers through summer school training. That's the direct experience. And the indirect experience comes in the form of our scholars learning from award-winning teachers on different things like trauma-informed care, cultural competency, classroom management, things like that. And their participation awards them a $2,000 stipend that goes directly to that scholar. They can use that amount for whatever they choose to do so. So when you add $2,000 amongst 4 years in the program, that's how we get to the $23,000 total. So the last thing I do want to mention is, Juan Jose, you can go to the next slide, that's okay. I did mention that we partnered with 48 institutions, and I understand that fit is a very important factor that you may have when you are coaching your students on what university to attend. So within those 48 institutions, I do want to assure you that we partner with universities as large as University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, universities as small as a Greenville University, as far as maybe a Carbondale, SIU Carbondale at the tip of the state, selective as Northwestern. So just about every single fit institution, we can find a match fit. But here's a really good visual aid in terms of how long we will support a scholar, the length of time that we are with your student. It starts with the recruitment stage. And so there are 3 entry points into the scholars program. A student is eligible as a high school graduating senior, but then they can also apply to the program as a freshman or a sophomore standing student in college. That also includes community college. So if some of your students are thinking about doing 1 year or 2 years at a community college and then make their transfer to the 4-year institution, they can still apply to the scholars program as long as they submit their application before they reach junior status at the 4-year institution. Once they are inducted, now we're at the undergraduate stage, and we provide several layers of support, starting with academic and social emotional support. We have a liaison at every single university partner that is our direct contact when we are monitoring our scholars' persistence on that campus. And so COVID is a great example. Last year, we were pretty much all under a similar situation where there was a virtual learning period, then there was maybe a hybrid learning period, and then there was just some hiccups where maybe there was a 2-week period where we're going to do virtual during spring break. Naturally, our scholars, some of our scholars struggled through that uncertainty and non-traditional learning format. And so what we were able to do is make sure that we can contact someone at a university partner and say that our scholar seems to be falling off of academic progress. Let's see if we can create some type of plan to make sure that there are multiple people involved to get that scholar back on track. So that's one area of support. We also have affinity groups. As we diversify the program, we are creating affinity groups where our scholars amongst all universities partners can get to know each other based on identity. So first generation affinity groups, students who are maybe from rural areas, affinity groups, students who are interested in teaching this subject field, affinity groups. And so they're able to meet each other even though they are not attending the same institution. The Scholar Institutes, we briefly talked about that. That is the summer boot camp where a student can earn up to $2,000 every single year for their participation. Next, we get to the job placement support. All of our scholars can take advantage of our job placement assistance in the form of things such as mock interviews. We have relationships with administrators, principals, superintendents throughout the state. And so if a scholar feels that they may want to work on their interviewing preparation, they can sit down with us and we can put them in front of an administrator to do a mock interview. So they're prepared on what they will eventually see once it's the real interview. But the most important aspect of the job placement support is our partnerships with districts around the state of Illinois. We currently have 20 partnerships with districts around the state, whereas if a district has an unfilled teaching position or knows that eventually they will see retirees that they may need to recruit now to fill that position, they can come to us and say, Golden Apple, let us know, who do you have who's licensed to teach this area lives in this region, who may be looking for a job, a teaching opportunity, and we can put that scholar directly in front of your administrators, so there's a more direct placement process. Going to the teaching side, again, we assign all of our scholars a mentor. So they have a mentor for 2 to 3 years in their professional teaching experience. And so all of this goes to our some of our statistics, where you see 97% of our scholars find a teaching position within 6 months of graduation, and 82% of our scholars remain in the teaching field beyond 5 years. A collection of these supports go to that outcome.
Ziggy, there's a question for you
Sure.
about, if someone just wanted to clarify, if someone sent me this, if I'm understanding this correctly, high school seniors, incoming college freshmen, and rising college sophomores can apply, including incoming transfers from community college.
That is correct. So going to the community college student, if a student is at a community college, let's say right now, and they plan to be at the community college for the fall and spring semester, they can still apply to the scholars program as long as they have an intention to make a transfer to a 4-year university come next fall.
Great, thank you.
Here's our timeline and eligibility. The application is open right now. It's online. December 15th is our priority deadline. The program is selective. So we received nearly 2,000 applications. So we do want students to apply early, and that way their application can be reviewed at the earliest possibility, and we can get that student moving through our review process. In the winter months, we do have a required interview process. All of our scholars who go to the finalist stage, they must complete an interview before we make our selections. And then the application will close April 1st. To the right, as you can see, there are 3 entry points. High school senior, college freshman or sophomore, and community college students are eligible. Illinois resident, US citizen, or documented students are also eligible for our program. So those documented students are eligible for our tuition assistance and all of our supports. And we are test score optional. So if you are working with students who can best illustrate their success and capabilities beyond a test score, we would love those students to apply as well. Next, we will get directly to our partnership. As I mentioned, the Scholars Program is a selective program. We received nearly 2,000 applications last year, and we accepted around just a little over 300 students from those 2,000 applications. So it is a selective program, but your students get priority consideration in our selection process. So these are ways that we would hope that you would collaborate with Golden Apple and grant us access to your students. Make sure we don't miss them in our selection process. First, we want them to apply, and I did include the application link in that first bullet point. We have a question in the application that requests a student to let us know if you are receiving any mentorship or college readiness program, and one of the drop-down options is college and career pathway endorsement. We want your students to make sure that they are selecting college and career pathway endorsement in that question, because that's how our review committee will make sure that we identify those students and grant them priority consideration. The priority consideration comes in the form of no matter your student's GPA, no matter your student's test scores, any student who is on the pathway to endorsement will automatically advance to our finalist stage in our selection process. They're guaranteed an interview. The reason why we have gone that far and said that the GPA or the test score is not a reason to select students out of the process that early is, Juan Jose and Sarah, they've shared with me the curriculum that goes with an endorsement, and the teaching preparation that also comes with the endorsement, inside and outside the classroom, even that career prep that comes outside the classroom. All those factors suggest that type of student will be successful in our program, and that's why we will advance your students directly to the interview stage should they complete the application. The next area is the share. I'll make sure that Juan Jose gets a copy of this one pager, and that way he can share that with you all. The one pager is our primary recruitment piece. It has a complete overview of the timeline, eligibility requirements, and the benefits of the Golden Apple Scholars Program. It also has contact information, so if a student has follow-up questions, they know who to contact. The last piece is we would like to follow up with each of you and administer an info session. Whether that be virtual or in person, that is up to you. But we are able to administer either type of presentation. And so what I would hope is that following up here between now and April, actually even earlier than April, because the application will close then, I would hope that you would decide to reach out to us and we can decide to coordinate a time where one of our recruitment members can come out and speak to your students directly about the Golden Apple Scholars Program. And so if you would like to take that further, I did insert the link where you could submit those requests.
Ziggy, I see one question in the chat. What if an undocumented student does not have DACA? Are they still eligible to apply?
I don't want a student to self-select themselves out at this point because things could change. For example, like our application opens in September and we don't make our selections until May. There are things that could change within that time period where a student may be ineligible as a non-documented student at maybe as early as September, but maybe because of something changing, become eligible when we make the selection process. So I'd still want that student to apply. And I will share that all of our applications go through multiple reviews, I would say. So there are multiple people who would review that application. So we would catch something like that and we would follow up with the student to get further information.
There's also a question about what about a college junior looking to change majors? I don't know if that is somehow inclusive in your process as well.
Yeah, that's a very, very, very good question. All of our students have to be on a path to graduating with a bachelor's in education with also licensure. So if it's a student right now who maybe, let's say it's a high school senior who has multiple interests, thinking about teaching, but I'm also thinking about this. Again, I don't want that student to self-select themselves out of the application process. Apply now, and let's say that student is accepted. If at that point that student has then decided that they no longer want to be a teacher, well, then there's no binding commitment. We can just withdraw that offer and move on to the next candidate.
How about like
I still want that student to apply. But once that student is inducted and they start their program in the fall, that student has to be on a pathway to teaching. If they're in the program, they're a current scholar, and then they decide to change their major, or they decide that they no longer want to teach even after graduating, that's a very important commitment. All of the tuition assistance that was allocated to that student at the time that they had exited turns into a loan. Okay, so I'll give you one example. Let's say a student is inducted as a freshman student, completes the program for 1 year, and then sophomore year of college decides that they no longer want to teach and change their major. That $2,500 that was dispersed in their freshman year of college, that turns into a loan which has to be repaid back. If a student graduates in the program and let's say was in the program for 4 years, graduates and decides they don't want to be a teacher anymore, that student will likely have earned $15,000 in the program. That converts into a loan. It's because of those reasons why our application process is a very lengthy one. We ask for several personal statements, and then we also require the interview, just so we can get a sense of certainty that that student has a passion for teaching, because the last thing we want to do is have a student follow the tuition assistance and then the passion is not really there.
That's great, Ziggy. And just to clarify, they can apply up to what year in college? I think you said freshmen and sophomores in college could still apply. Could a college junior still apply?
No, if a student is, let's say if we're looking at the application process right now, if a student is a junior right now, they're ineligible for the program. If a student is a sophomore now, yes, they are eligible for the program.
Thank you for that. Any other questions in the chat? I don't see anything else coming up.
Okay, I think with that, thank you very much for everything, Ziggy. Really appreciate this information. I learned as much as well. Is there any parting thoughts that you'd like to share with folks before we go?
Yeah, I mean, that was a lot of information. So just a quick recap, the Golden Apple Scholars Program at the core, we're a teacher preparation program providing tuition assistance, academic support, job placement support, mentorship, and classroom preparation. Again, we have a direct partnership with your district through SEPI. And so because your students will automatically advance to our finalist stage, now will be the time for us to start working with your students so they know what to expect in the program and begin to apply. And again, reach out to us, please. If you would like to coordinate an info session, whether that be virtual or in person, we can do that at any point through the year.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate all of you for joining. If you have any questions, please feel free to to email. And so we think, I'm sorry, there's one last question about how many scholarships are emailed out annually. I think the answer was around 300. Is that right, Ziggy?
That is an excellent point. Yes, this year we had about 300, it's more about 320 inducted scholars, but our goal is to continue to increase the size of the program. And so this year we have a goal of increasing the program by 20%. And that's because of the teacher shortage. You know, I think, you know, we may have heard those stats. You know, there's about close to 2,000 unfilled teaching positions across the state of Illinois. Many are in rural communities. And so we have a responsibility as a teacher preparation program to make that call to action. And so we hope to have anywhere between 370 to maybe upwards of 400 newly inducted scholars this year, assuming you know, the state budget also supports that as well. But we've been fortunate. The state budget, as you know, has been allocating more funds towards education and teaching. So
great. Thank you very much. Thank you all for joining. Appreciate that as well.